Everyone, welcome to a very special episode of the Fellas Podcast. Very big interview today with a very special guest, George Niang of the Philadelphia 76ers.
What's up, guys? How you guys doing?
Doing good, doing good. You want to
Doing
get right
good.
into it?
Why not? Why not? We're here.
All
Let's
right,
have a good time.
let's do it, man. Personally, I want to start with last night. You guys win against Phoenix, where you dropped 21 points, 7 for 10 behind the arc, tying your career high in threes with 7. So, as you were hitting those shots and feeling the crowd, what was going through your head during the game last night?
It actually sounds kind of cliche to say, but in, in those moments, you're kind of just flowing. The game completely slows down, and you're just in a zone where, just I don't want to say you feel like everything you throw up goes in, but you're just super locked in. The reads become super easy on what you're supposed to be doing, and they were real easy for me. I was open, so that's my job to shoot it, and that's what I did.
Yeah, me and Nick were both watching, dude. You're on fire, brother. Open or not, I'm telling you, the last few that you were contested.
Yeah, no, I mean, I put a lot of time and effort into, shooting contested shots. So those, if I can get it off, I consider myself open. But Joel was doing a great job of finding me. Tobias, I think the best thing about last night was that the ball was really moving and it was getting around, getting into the lane, getting kickouts, and I was lucky enough to be on the receiving end of a lot of those driving kicks.
Yeah, very quality win last night.
So, like you were mentioning, like everything was flowing. I want to ask, like, does the crowd have like any effect? Cause like playing in front of high school crowds and playing in front of college crowds, is that like a little different, or does it kind of do you like block it out?
I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that, you feed off the energy of a crowd or um, if an away crowd wasn't something that plays a factor in, the outcome of how you operate. The biggest thing for me is I just try to focus on what I have to do at hand. But I think if you saw the last clip after I made that three, that's just like pure raw emotion, feeding off the crowd. And I think that's natural. And I think everybody should have that. I mean, obviously, if you're away and you get to silence a crowd, you probably get a little more juiced up, because I mean, you're a human. You hear things that people are saying up and down the court, cheers, boos,
Yeah.
all that stuff. So I'm a very emotional player. So to feed off the crowd is something that I do, but I also try to do a good job of blocking that all out and really focus on what I have to do on the court, just so I'm not, easily distracted.
Yeah. So speaking of your earlier years, like in high school and college, you grew up in Lawrence, Mass. So what was your main inspiration growing up, and what made you want to pursue basketball?
Um, I don't know if there was like one major inspiration. I've had a lot of people that have done a lot of good in my life and helped me achieve a lot of my goals, whether if it's on the court as a basketball player or, off the court becoming a man. My family has been huge in that aspect, whether it's been my uncle, my mom, my high school basketball coach, my mentor growing up, my basketball coach, my dad. Um, but I just think the biggest thing for me is I felt like I was always told no, as a kid, where it was like, you're not good enough to play at this stage, you're not good enough to do this. I'm from a small town in Massachusetts, Methuen, Massachusetts. So it's like nobody ever really came out of there and, played in the NBA. I don't think anybody has. So for me, waking up every day, now my inspiration is to prove to, or not prove, but, show kids that come from areas that they don't really have too many successful athletes that you can do anything. Greatness comes from anywhere as long as you're hard working, you're determined, you treat people the right way. Anything is possible. But I would say when I was at a young age, my inspiration was obviously my family and how much they supported me, but it was the haters, the people that would tell me
Yeah.
that you can't do this. You're not, and I would be like, why not me? I can be that
Exactly.
person. How are you going to tell me what my dreams can and can't be? So I've always wanted to be an NBA basketball player. But I think the biggest thing for me is that I took it step by step. I wasn't in high school thinking about how I could get to the NBA. I was in high school thinking about how I could make it on my varsity team. Then from there, it was like, how can I, get a college scholarship? Then it was like, how can I go Division 1? Then high major Division 1. Then when I went to college, it was like, how can I start on my college team? How can I be an All-American? Then it all of a sudden started becoming more real of like, oh, I can actually get drafted. And then once you get drafted, it's like, okay, how do I sustain this success? And I think the biggest thing for me is, if I could give advice to anybody, is just look what's in right in front of you. Don't look too far ahead, because that's how you trip up on roadblocks, and you don't even allow yourself to get to what your dream is. So just focus on the thing that's in front of you, accomplish that goal, celebrate it for a little bit, then look at what your next hurdle is and try to achieve that, one step at a time.
Very cool, very cool. Well said, well said.
All right. Uh, since you've been with multiple different teams, I was just wondering, like, what is the experience like traveling to a different like clubhouse, all the new teammates and everything, and like, just like how I don't know, like how is it? Because I've always wanted to like I don't know, I always wondered.
Yeah, I mean, the NBA is a really big fraternity, right? There's only 450 of us. There's so many guys that I've grown up playing in high school, or went to college and played against in college, or were college teammates with, or grew up playing AAU basketball with them. So everybody's somewhat familiar with each other, and it's very rarely that you go to a team, especially if you've been in the league for a little bit, where you don't know anybody. I'm a pretty social, personable person. So I know a lot of people, and I've been lucky enough to make a ton of connections. So transitioning from, Indiana to, I was then went to Golden State for training camp, where I was lucky enough to be around guys like Steph, Clay, KD, Draymond. That was a really cool experience. And then when I was moved over to Utah, um, you know, beginning relationships with them. And then finally, when I was here in Philadelphia, it's almost like going to a new school, right? You want to kind of blend in, fit in, but you don't want to be that kid that talks too much, or doesn't say anything, or awkward, does weird things. So you kind of trying to find your way and piece your way in without being an outcast, but also, being yourself. So I think the biggest thing for me is, if I could just be myself and be who I am, if they like me, great. If they didn't, well, then, I'd probably have to find a new place. But the biggest thing for me is just trying to accept everybody for who they are and what they stand for. But obviously, it's a transition for, as anything. I mean, change is hard. I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you that it's easy just going from team to team, because all people see is you switching jerseys. They don't see that you had to move your family, or ship your car, or move all your belongings, and like that stuff is stressful. It's not just on the court. Like, this is our lives. This is our livelihood. So when we go from team to team, it's not just like, oh, we just switched uniforms. Like, no, we're moving our whole life from a city that could have been closer to our family to now, halfway across the country. So it's um it's a unique situation, but I think the NBA is a big fraternity, and they do a great job of welcoming in everybody.
Yeah, so to expand on that, I feel like the G League is like very underrated in an aspect of like kind of building players mentally and physically. So what did you experience being on the Warriors and the was it the Pacers G League team?
Yeah, so my first year I was with the Fort Wayne Mad Ants. While I was on the Pacers, I went down there for a couple games, and then I was also with the Santa Cruz Warriors before I was picked up on that new two-way contract by the Jazz, and I played for the Salt Lake City Stars. And I think every player that isn't deemed a superstar or playing minutes right away should have a little taste of the G League, should go down there and experience it. It's a great opportunity to be able to play through your mistakes, play on an NBA court with NBA rules, with other guys that are hungry to be, successful. And when you're an NBA guy and you get called down to the G League, other guys that are looking to get called up from the G League are going to look at you like, all right, this is the guy that I have to beat out, and you're getting everybody's best game. So the competition is extremely good. But I also think just being able to get out there and play through your mistakes and kind of figure out what role you kind of fit on an NBA team and what you can and can't get away with. My G League experience was probably the reason why I am successful today. I was lucky enough to play through my mistakes, see what worked, see what didn't, really master my craft, before I was put out on the court and had to show what I could do at the NBA level. Because once you get put out on the court at the NBA level and teams know what you can't do, you're kind of put into a box. And, once you're labeled something or put into that box, it's tough to break your way out. So if you can get some time in the G League to really, harp on your craft, work on your game, I think it's an experience that everyone should experience before they, get out there and get some NBA minutes.
Gotcha. So back to your role. So obviously you're one of the best role players in the league, in my opinion.
Me too. I
So
think so too.
back in Iowa State when you were more of the main guy on the team, what was kind of your high point from your freshman year to your senior year?
Gosh, it's crazy to think that that was almost like you talking about my freshman year. That was 10 years.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I've had a lot of high moments or high points in my college career, but definitely was winning, a Big 12 championship and or beating Iowa. Um, 3 out of the 4 years and beating Kansas on college game day. Those are moments that will stick in my mind forever. Even like coming back from 20 down against Oklahoma and beating them. There's just so many that are just fresh, in my mind. Um, but I think the biggest thing for me is while I was in the moment, I didn't know how big of a moment it was because I was just doing what I loved and I enjoyed playing basketball, competing at the highest level. So I didn't realize those big moments until you're online and someone's like, can you believe that Iowa State had this comeback? And I'm like, oh shoot, like I was a part of that. That was a huge comeback, or that was a big win. But I just remember the best feelings that I had were when we came together as a team and won as a team. There was never like, oh, I had 30 points and we lost. Like those never really resonated with me, never really stuck with me. It was always where you look to the guy next to you and realize that he was giving his all and trusted that you were giving your all. And those are some of the memorable moments that I definitely miss about college because you weren't playing for money back then. You were just playing, because you loved it. I mean, now that the NIL thing is a whole different story, but guys were doing it for the passion and the love that they had for a sport that they started because it brought them joy. So those couple moments that I rattled off were definitely some high moments for me.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't mention when you won the Karl Malone Award for the best power forward. Did you
Yeah.
even ever like kind of, I mean, think that was possible or like what went through your head when you won that award?
To be honest with you, there was so much going on. I think when I won that award, it was my senior season had just ended. I was getting ready for the draft. Um, it was an honor because, Karl Malone is one of the best
Yep.
power forwards to ever play the game, college
Yep.
or pros. Um, so it was a real honor to be out there and, with all the people that, won the other awards that, you know, with the Naismith, award winners out there. It was actually a really cool experience. And to be appreciated like that means more than anybody could know. I put a lot of time and effort into my craft and to have it be recognized nationally was something that, I'm truly honored to receive. But I think the coolest part was I got to have my grandmother, my mom, my uncle, my whole family out there supporting me and seeing me get that award, and that means more than any award. Is just having their love and support, through everything. Because without them, this journey wouldn't be possible.
Speaking of like time and like a couple years ago, do you think like for example like Steph Curry kind of changed the game of basketball? Is there anything you used to do that you don't do nearly as often, and is there something that you never did that you do more now?
I shoot a lot more threes than I ever did in
Yes,
my
sir.
career.
Yeah, me too.
But that's a credit to Steph Curry. He has changed the game through that aspect. But with that being said, I was more of a post-up player when I was in college. I was allowed to do a lot of dribbling, but getting into the post and you know playing with my back to the basket. But I had to find ways to be effective to make it on an NBA court, and that was by stretching the floor and being able to shoot the ball quickly and create space for other guys and keep my guy gravitating towards me rather than double teaming other guys. So my game has changed completely. like I said, I was more of a basket player. But at this point in my career, I'm willing to do anything to continue to play the game that I love and help my team win. And if making 3 pointers is what's asked of me, along with playmaking and making plays for others, then that's what I'm going to do.
How long did it take you to get that good at 3 point shooting? Because making seven threes is not easy whatsoever, and especially in front of an NBA crowd with a bunch of rowdy
Oh,
Philly fans and everything.
yeah, like I said, I put a lot of time and effort into my craft, but I've had so many people help me along the way. I've had shooting coaches, I've had, regular basketball coaches, I've had coaches on my team that have really played a huge part in my success to getting to this point. So it's definitely not all on me. I've been lucky enough, like I said, to have a lot of people that have helped me along the way. Um, Obviously, my first 2 years, if you're looking statistically, I was 1 for 16 from three. And I realized that I had to perfect that skill to be able to play minutes on an NBA court. And once I did that, I was lucky enough to get opportunities to continue to make shots and get more minutes. And coaches trusted me. And once you get on the court, you're allowed a little more freedom than you were to start. But making 7 threes is a product of me putting in work and people dedicating their time to help me perfect my craft. There's nothing more, nothing less. If you want something bad enough, you'll put enough time into it to get good at it. And if you don't, you'll talk about it and not be that great at it. So if you really want something, what I know from my experiences is you got to go out there and go take it. Nothing's going to be given to you.
Yeah, so I do want to talk about when you were on the Jazz in 2019.
Yeah.
You guys were a great team that year, made the playoffs. Then you suffered a first round exit to the Nuggets in a game 7. So after that loss, how do you kind of stay motivated after that?
I think the biggest thing was we had a 3-1 lead. We went down 1-0, then we won three straight, and then we lost three straight. So the biggest thing, that I took from that was, remembering that feeling of losing and how bad it felt and, how I never wanted to be back to that position again. So I think everybody, on that team definitely looked themselves in the mirror and was like, how can we get better? How can we perfect things so that we don't ever have to be in this position ever again? And I think we ended up finishing like first in the West the next year.
Yeah. Yep.
Obviously, I think we beat Memphis in the first round and then lost to the Clippers. We obviously were battling some injuries, but I think the biggest thing for me was overcoming the adversity of being in the bubble. That wasn't easy. After losing to that is just getting your body healthy, focusing on what you can do better and, trying to perfect your craft moving forward so that you can be the best you can be for your team whenever they need you. And obviously, if it wasn't for injuries, I think we could have made it a little farther. But the Clippers had injuries also, so that's what makes it hard to win an NBA championship. Is you want to be clicking on all cylinders right around May and June.
Yeah, well, that's well said. So a little off topic, but I do want to ask, in your time in the bubble, was it really easier to shoot the basketball?
I'll tell you this, not having the distractions of a crowd did make it a little easier. Obviously having a backdrop and different things like that. But at the end of the day, um, there's it's still high level games. Obviously, you just don't realize the magnitude of it when you're playing the game because there's no crowd or change of energy, natural energy, because it was artificial noise. But with that being said, there were some stellar shooting performances, and I think having a backdrop definitely helped. An arena setting,
Yeah.
there's so much space behind the hoop where that can throw some guys shooting off, and a lot of guys are shooting the ball well in the bubble.
Yeah, we all saw. All right, I got one last one for you. So back in August, you finished your 7th annual George Niang basketball camp, which is huge for you. So congratulations on that.
Thank
So I
you.
wanted to ask you, what was kind of your motivation for starting your own camp for the young kids, and what is your favorite part about it in general?
The biggest thing for me was, I remember going to camps when I was younger, and those kind of build your love for the game, where you could just be at a camp all day playing basketball, falling in love with the whole process, whether if it's the sound of the ball or the ball bouncing off the rim and going into the hoop. Those are the moments where you find your pure love for the game. And when you see these young kids, they're so raw and with raw emotion and natural excitement. You can't help but want to help those kids achieve their dreams, whether if that's to be a lawyer, a doctor, a dentist, or a basketball player. But the one thing that I try to dedicate my time to is these kids is showing them that hard work can get you anything that you want. And if you're going to come to my camp, you're going to work hard, you're going to have a good time, we're going to share laughs, stories. um, but at the end of the day, you're going to leave knowing that you gave your all, with what you started. And obviously it's been 7 years, but the reason why I started it was I want to give back to kids, and like I said, is
Yep.
show them that anything is possible, with hard work. And I'm super excited that it's got to 7 years. I don't know where the time has gone, but it's been crazy. And I go back to Ames, Iowa, and try to give back to a community that's given me so much happiness, in my years. So it's been a great outcome, and I look forward to doing it for as long as I can.
You
I
also have
love that.
a fundraiser too or something, right? I think I saw that on Twitter.
A charity golf outing. I think we
Yep.
just finished our 5th year. So we're looking at
Congratulations, that's crazy.
six. I think it was maybe four. I don't know. I get confused with the years all the time. I don't even know with the breakfast. But I love giving back. I think the biggest thing for me is I have a very great life, and I know a lot of people are naturally dealt a bad hand, and I was lucky enough to have a lot of people that cared for me and have blessed me in my life. So anytime I can give back to people that are less fortunate and have been dealt a bad hand, I always want to do that. That's something that's always made me feel better, as a person, is giving back, because I realize how lucky and blessed I really am.
There you go. All right, Nick, you got anything else, brother?
I think that's all.
All
Well, thank
right.
you guys for having me, man.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
for sure.
This is great. Oh my god. I was so excited. I was smiling all day. Oh,
There we go.
I
I
couldn't
love
wait,
that.
man. I
All
like
right. Thank you guys
thank
for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it.
thank you.
Yes,
This made
sir.
my
Have a good
day.
day.
All right, brother.